Hey everybody, it's Josh. I want to talk today about how God works through our brokenness and our weakness. Mankind has been sinful and rebellious from the very beginning. This is part of the nature of who we are within this broken, fallen world. And because of this, we see that God is trying to guide us back to His presence, to His righteousness. And we go there only kicking and screaming. But what God does is, as Joseph says in Genesis 50:20, what the world means for evil, God means for good. There's a story of Jesus Christ, and the disciples come across a blind man. And the disciples turn to Jesus and ask, Rabbi, is this man blind because of his sins or his father's sins? And Jesus says, it's neither. This man is blind so the good works of God can be shown through him. The Genesis story, we see Joseph, who was given by his father, Jacob, who later became Israel, given a beautiful multicolored coat, which back in the day was a sign of royalty. It was really a sign of status. Well, obviously, Jacob favored Joseph, but his other brothers were not favored in this way, so they became jealous. And Joseph would parade around in this multicolored coat, and the other brothers grew more and more jealous until finally one day they decided, let's take care of him. Let's go and sell him into slavery. And what they had to do was they had to take his multicolored coat and give it to their father, Jacob, and say, look, unfortunately, our brother is dead. His father obviously devastated, not knowing the truth. But Joseph was taken into slavery in Egypt. And he was really broken, obviously, going from somebody of great status and really having the good life as much as you could back in the day, to being enslaved, living in harsh conditions. But God guided him through this whole process. God showed him the way to glorify him even in the hardest times. While he was enslaved, Joseph became close to a man named Potiphar, and Potiphar and his wife were very close to the Pharaoh at the time. They were almost like royalty. So Joseph had his monicum of status back again. Well, things kept getting worse because Potiphar's wife was really into Joseph, man. She really wanted to be with Joseph. She kept making advances on him. He kept rejecting her. Till finally one day she got fed up with it, and as she was coming on to him, he went to flee, and she took his coat, a different coat this time. And because of this, she was able to claim that Joseph was coming on to her, and she fought off the advances. Well, obviously, Potiphar and everyone heard about this. They got horribly mad. They threw Joseph into prison now. So he's been beaten by his brothers, enslaved, then got his status back a little bit again, falsely accused of sexual advances, and then now he's thrown into prison. And he spends years in prison. But he makes friends with the prison guard and some of the other prisoners. And during this time, he's building back up his status. God is guiding him towards purpose, even in the worst possible times. You think prison is bad nowadays? Think about it back then. So Joseph makes friends with these prisoners. They get out of prison. And when they get out of prison, some more time passes. Joseph's just sort of rotting in prison. And the Pharaoh has a dream, and he wants someone to interpret the dream. Well, one of the prisoners that was in prison with Joseph tells the Pharaoh, oh, I know someone who can interpret your dream. So they go and get Joseph out of prison. He interprets his dream, and he becomes close then with the Pharaoh, almost like a prince in Egypt. Well, Joseph starts telling the Pharaoh, there's going to be a great famine. We need to do whatever we can to store up grains and food supplies so we can last through this great famine. Well, the Pharaoh took him seriously. That's what they did. He let Joseph oversee everything. The Egyptians had more than enough food to last through this famine that did come. And then during the famine, the Israelites were also in this famine, the Hebrews, which included his brothers. His brothers come into Egypt to try to get relief, to try to get some food. And they see Joseph there. And they're like, oh no, he's going to have us killed. Look at him, he's already, high up in the ranks in Pharaoh's court. Oh no, we're done for. And this is when Joseph says to him, no, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And he did this so many people could be saved by these actions. So all this tragedy that Joseph goes through in his life, all this trauma, all the false allegations, and really, he had to be humbled in the beginning. He was very prideful when he was marching around in that multicolored coat. We start to see that the worst parts in our life are the times when God is using them for good. This happened to me in my life. I was in horrible pain. I still am in pain, but I was in more pain than just physical pain. After I was disabled in 2010, I became really depressed. I was in financial ruin. I did not know how to proceed. I'd lost all meaning and purpose in life. I didn't think because of my back injury there was any way for me to go on. I wanted to end everything. I came out to a different part of this beautiful lake behind me, Falls Lake in North Carolina, and I began to pray genuinely for the first time in my adult life. And not even 10 minutes later, after asking God, if you are really out there, I didn't believe he was, if you are really out there, just show me a sign, show me a way out of this hell that I'm in, and I will give my life to you. Well, not even 10 minutes later, he sends a deer, a white-tailed doe, running out of the woods. She lets me pet her, and she walks alongside of me for an hour and a half. Now, those of you all who listen to my channel know my testimony. If you want to see my testimony video, some clips from the day that I was saved, go to the description, and I put it in every single description. This was a time in my life where I did not want to go on. This was a time in my life where I thought there is nothing good that could happen unless I were to win the lottery or something, because that's where my mind was. It was all about the physical world. It was all about how I can advance myself in the physical world. Maybe if I have money, I can get a better treatment for my back. I can get out of the poverty I'm in, obviously, and then, have at least some level of comfort in my life and won't have to worry about at least the financial stuff. I'll still have problems, but they'll be alleviated somewhat. But no, that was the wrong way to think. That's the wrong way that we all think most of the time. We put our minds on the things of the world, not on the things of God. God does work through our hardest times. God does work through our brokenness and weakness. It is so that our eyes can be open to his truth. Because the ruler of this world is the devil. The devil is the Lord of death. They call him the prince of the power of the air in, I believe, Corinthians. The reason they call him that is the very air in this world is a toxin. Everything here is slowly killing us. But Jesus comes to give us eternal life. He says, the enemy comes only to kill and destroy. I come to give you eternal life. Well, I don't know if people truly believe this. I know it's impossible to believe, but I'm telling you, just go out, find a lonely place, a beautiful place like this, and talk to God. If you don't believe, if you have major doubts, then talk about those doubts with God. He doesn't care if you have doubts. He wants you to be open with him. It's about a relationship. It's about a dialogue. Sometimes you have to wrestle with God. In fact, a lot of times you do. You have to be humbled. You have to understand what truly matters in this life. And I can tell you, after being completely miserable and now being the wealthiest person in the world, because I have a wealth that is not of this world, that when you finally meet him, you will not suffer anymore. When you finally meet him, these struggles in your life will finally be over. There will be pain, there will be trials and tribulations, but they will not lead to suffering. They will not be struggles because you trust in God to lead you through. And when you put your full trust in God, the weight of the world comes off your shoulders. He takes that cross that is too much for all of us to bear. Even he could not bear the cross all the way to up the hill. When Jesus was carrying the crossbeam up the hill, he was so beaten and broken, as we become in our lives, right? Not to that extent, but we get so beaten and broken that we can no longer bear the weight of the cross. And we must abide in him. We see in his story, he drops the crossbeam. The Roman guard tells a man named Simon of Cyrene to pick up the crossbeam and carry it for him. If this is what Jesus did in his life on this earth, then this is what we can expect. Everything that happens in the scriptures is to show us how to live. Every single thing. All right, everybody. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of this beautiful afternoon. I love you guys so much. Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you're struggling in your life. And if there's any way I can help you, I will absolutely do everything I can. God bless you. Love you so much.